Hello, music fans. I'm here to talk to you about my top 13 favorite Mathcore albums. Now, typically, I'm a prog metal and prog rock fan, but I like to dabble and listen to some other genres from time to time, and I've been making some videos on my favorite albums in those other genres. And today, the video is on Mathcore. So, what is Mathcore? It's like a subgenre of hardcore punk and metalcore, according to Wikipedia, influenced by post-hardcore, extreme metal, and math rock that was developed during the 1990s. And bands in this genre emphasize complex rhythms, use irregular time signatures, polymeters, syncopation, tempo changes. So that's kind of the textbook definition. The way I would describe it is very chaotic, abrasive, dissonant. Usually, a lot of these bands use dissonant chords rather than things that are typically seen as harmonious sounds. So they intentionally use like panic chords that are a semitone apart. They use tritones, um, lots of intervals that make people uncomfortable, and it's very spastic, chaotic music that it's hard to find the pulse to. It just sounds like it's frantic and almost hitting you randomly. But if you listen to a lot of this, you realize it's not random. There's a lot of like order to the chaos in a lot of these bands, and there's interesting patterns. And that's part of the reason why it's called mathcore too. Is counting the music that you have to play here can be very complicated mathematically when you're counting odd time passages and time signature changes and tempo changes and weird syncopation. Um, all right, so let's jump into my number 13. And the rules here is limit 2 albums per band. And also, all of my examples are from the 2000s. I don't know the 90s mathcore as well. So my number 13 is going to be from the band Tony Danza and the Tap Dance Extravaganza, which is a very crazy name, which matches the crazy music. And the album is called Danza 3, This Series of Unfortunate Events. And this is from 2010. It's got some grindcore vibes to it as well as some djent. They kind of bust out the low tuning guitars and syncopated rhythms here. Uh, Common theme that you'll notice in mathcore is some of the song titles are crazy all over the place, and there's like vulgar lyrics sometimes in Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza and some of the other bands on this list. The lyrics are typically pessimistic, defiant, resentful, sarcastic, kind of anti-establishment type of stuff. This is an interesting album for sure, and I've got another one from them coming up later on in the list here. My number 12 is from the band The End, and it's an album called Within Dividia. And The End is a Canadian band. This album is from 2004. My favorite album by The End is actually their next album afterwards called Elementary from 2007, but it's not really mathcore. That kind of went was a departure from their mathcore sound, went more towards like alternative metal with some metalcore vibes. This one's still very spastic. Every vocal on here is screamed. It's chaotic music. I guess the song I recommend people would check out on this one would be called Dear Martyr, the sixth song. And yeah, the common theme across a lot of these bands is mostly screamed vocals, but some of the bands later on the list also have some nice clean vocals and singing to contrast the screaming as well. My number 11 mathcore album is by the band Psyopus, and the album's called Odd Senses from 2009. And Psyopus, yeah, this is pretty avant-garde, pretty out there. The guitar playing here is crazy. They do a lot of finger tapping guitar playing, like sliding and I think they use whammy bar quite a bit, like dive bombs and uh, like pinch harmonics and it's crazy guitar sounds the whole time. So the guitar is the star of the show in this one, whereas in a lot of mathcore bands, the drums are tend to be more interesting, and the guitars in a lot of the bands are playing like panic chords and just chugging. This one's very intricate guitar work by Christopher Arp, who writes. I think he's kind of the band leader, writes most of the music. I think he collaborates with the other band members too, though, on the music. And my next one, my number 10, is also going to be from Psyopus. And this is the album from right before that one. This is their second album called All Our Puzzling Encounters Considered. Similar kind of sound, this mathcore, grindcore, avant-garde metal, uh, ridiculous song titles with vulgar lyrics. But actually, probably the song, if you're going to check out any Psyopus song, the one that I see as kind of their definitive song is Insects on here. But I also really like they have some softer songs on some of their albums. They have a kind of on Odd Senses, the previous one, they have a song called Imogen's Puzzle Part 2, and on this one they have, or sorry, it's Imogen's Puzzle Part 3 on Odd Senses, and on this one they have Imogen's Puzzle Part 2. So they kind of have a suite of songs that continue throughout their album, and that's something that a prog fan might like, because you can kind of see some prog bands doing stuff like that. And this song is probably the one that would be most appealing to prog fans, because it's not straight up mathcore. It's kind of more like a classical composition, and it's interesting. It's softer. It's still got a lot of weirdness, and they put like creepy noises in the background. So everything about listening to these types of bands is just unsettling. Like, you're not supposed to feel that comfortable when you listen to them. It's not exactly relaxing music. And on to my number 9, which is from the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza again. And this is Danza 4, the Alpha, the Omega, their fourth and final studio album from 2012. Again, mathcore, they've got some gent vibes in here and deathcore vibes. Kind of weird song titles like Canadian Bacon and other stuff like that. I don't know what half of this music is about. You can't even understand the lyrics because it's just too chaotic. And at my number 8 is a band called the Number 12 Looks Like You, and this is their album Worse Than Alone from 2009. It's their fourth album. And yeah, you see weird song titles again, crazy, spastic, chaotic, noisy, screaming, crazy guitar work, crazy drumming. Really interesting band. And they also take my number 7 spot with their album from 2019 called Wild Gods, which it's a pretty good album. My favorite of theirs. And getting into the top 6 now, my number 6 is from a band called Car Bomb, and it's their album Meta from 2016. And the band's name sounds like what they sound like. They do sound like a car bomb going off. It's kind of got some Meshuggah influence. So a prog fan might like Car Bomb, especially if you're a prog fan who likes Meshuggah, kind of maybe the most brutal, the most kind of syncopated, rhythmic prog band out there. Meshuggah almost borders on mathcore sometimes. Car Bomb is basically you take Meshuggah, but you make it more mathcore, even more spastic and chaotic, if that was even possible. Meshuggah is more hypnotic and groovy, and you can kind of relax when you listen to Meshuggah, even though it's pretty extreme. With Car Bomb, you can't even relax. You don't even know what's going on. There's a lot of like tempo change, modulation, and crazy stuff happening. And they also have my number 5 album on the list, which is Mordial from 2019, my favorite Car Bomb album. Now we're at the top 4, and I've got Rollo Tomasi with their album Grievances from 2015. They're from England, and this is interesting. This is different from every album on the list because it's a female fronted band, so they've got female singer and screamer, so she can sing really well, she can also scream, and it's got more experimental vibes to it. It's got more post rock. There's more relaxing parts in here, but there's also extreme chaos like all the other ones. But this one at least has some ups and downs. I think some of the other bands have some ups and downs too, but this one more so than all the previous ones. They have some soft parts. They have synthesizers. They have beautiful vocal melodies that sound like they could be on synth pop songs, but then all of a sudden they bring you into the darkness and drag you to hell and pummel you with chaos. So um, yeah, it's a interesting listen. Maybe a good gateway band if someone wants to get into mathcore. Rollo Tomasi. And my number 3 is another Rollo Tomasi album. It's their album from 2018 called Time Will Die and Love Will Bury It. It's my favorite album of theirs. And this one is particularly interesting in that I think the first 2 songs even are soft and beautiful, kind of synth pop sounding stuff. You could think that you're going to listen to like a dream pop synth pop album when you start it, and then the third track it just changes pace, gets so dark and scary and chaotic and brutal and screamy. It'd be a good one to pull a prank on somebody with if you want to show somebody an album and kind of lull them into a false sense of security. Let them listen to the first 2 songs here, and they'll be relaxing, just thinking it's beautiful, pretty stuff. And then the third song comes around, and they'll be shocked. And we've got our top 2 now. Spoiler alert, these are both from the same band, the legendary kings of mathcore, in my opinion, the Dillinger Escape Plan. And my number 2 is their album Option Paralysis from 2010. And yeah, I just think they're the best mathcore band of all time for me. Maybe there's some bands that I haven't heard of that are better, but this is the best mathcore I've ever heard from Dillinger Escape Plan, from any band. Great song to check out. It's Farewell Mona Lisa. They also have lots of other influences, so there's variety here as well. That's what makes them one of the most interesting mathcore bands, and something where I think prog fans would really like the Dillinger Escape Plan, because they have influences from electronic music and stuff like Nine Inch Nails, kind of industrial sounds. But then they also have influences from like jazz and jazzy passages, as well as kind of just poppy, catchy hooks, then typical kind of hardcore sounding stuff. They have excellent melodic, clean singing vocals, as well as some of the scariest screams you'll hear. So a lot of good variety here, but definitely not for everybody. And my favorite mathcore album is from the Dillinger Escape Plan, and it's their album Ironworks from 2007. I realized I forgot my props again in this video. I need to go grab my Dillinger Escape Plan albums. There you go. This way you can see the album artwork here. So this was my number 2, Option Paralysis. And my number 1 mathcore album, Ironworks. Yeah, this is a wild ride. It starts off with the song Fix Your Face, which is extremely chaotic and brutal just to open up the album, with these dissonant panic chords and crazy drumming and really aggressive vocals. But then it has some really cool kind of catchy stuff, like the song Black Bubblegum, which has a really catchy chorus and like this groovy verse. It still sounds kind of like sinister and evil, but it's catchy. You can groove to it, you can sing along with it. And same thing with a song like Milk Lizard. It's just this groovy riff that you can't help but headbang to. They have horns on this song. Yeah, it's a wild song. And then the last song on the album, Mouth of Ghosts, is a soft song. They have piano and stuff like that on there. If I'm remembering the song correctly, I think that's the one with piano, like kind of a softer ballad. So yeah, they have kind of beautiful singing. It almost sounds like it could be like Justin Timberlake kind of beautiful pop harmonies. But then on the same album, they have crazy chaotic mathcore. They also have a couple electronic songs called When Acting as a Particle and When Acting as a Wave, which are really kind of cool, electronic, glitchy, kind of, I don't know, industrial sounding electronic stuff. It's hard to describe, but this is an album that anyone who likes mathcore should check it out. Even if you don't like mathcore and you like progressive metal, I think this could be a good gateway for progressive metal fans into mathcore as well. And that's it for my top 13 mathcore albums. Hope you found something here that you enjoy. Let me know what other genres you want me to do next. I'm thinking black metal, I'm thinking thrash metal. Maybe I'll kind of end it there, kind of end the series. And that's it for today. Peace out.